News!
Okay, we'll start with this. Later on this week on Friday, Allentown, Pennsylvania's unbeaten up-and-comer Leona Cruz will be returning to action opposite the ring experienced Villenga.
And what is an OTX promotion on the DAZN platform, DAZN and OTX struck a deal for OTX to do several cards. I think they've done one already.
One that featured unbeaten U.S. Olympian O'Shea Jones. I think that was last week. This week, we're going to see Leona Cruz versus Villenga in a six-rounder in the women's flyweight division. Flyweight, that's where Marlon Esparza reigns as that division's unified Ring Magazine and lineal champion.
As well as Mexico's own Arely Mucino, she's got the IBF. There are only two champions at this weight.
This time there are. Leona Cruz sports professional record of 5 wins, no losses, and no draws, to Villenga, who sports a professional record of 4 wins with 3 losses and 2 draws.
2 knockouts.
Leona Cruz, the much younger fighter of the two, a very fresh and fly, spry 25 years old, to Villenga, who's a very capable 41 years old, 16 years older than the unbeaten up-and-comer Leona Cruz, who debuted as a professional back in September of 2021.
We'll notice that Leona Cruz has not just one, but 2 fights on schedule. The fight this upcoming Friday, then another fight next month against an opponent that has yet to be announced.
Which is the best thing for an unbeaten up-and-comer like Leona Cruz, who doesn't come from some deep amateur background. It's my understanding that she actually has no amateur experience, having debuted as a professional in 2021, having fought 2 times in 2022.
2 times this year.
Set to fight 2 more times, once this month, then again in September.
Even though she doesn't come from some deep amateur background, Leona Cruz has the look of a natural.
Very sharp puncher, good shot selection, good combinations, fast and strong. She doesn't have any recorded knockouts, not yet, but there does seem to be some mustard on those shots.
Strong.
Though not having any semblance of an amateur background, you can chalk up the fights that Leona Cruz is having now as experience fights and learning fights, learning on the job, as she has no amateur background to draw from.
Unlike this division's unified Ring Magazine and lineal champion Marlon Esparza, a former U.S. Olympian and a seasoned professional.
As well as Arely Mucino of Mexico, this division's IBF champion. What she lacks in amateur experience, she more than makes up for in professional experience. She's been a champion more than once. She's been around the block. You get a look at these champions, these fighters, and you get the sense that it'll be a while before Leona Cruz is ready to challenge one of them for an alphabet title.
She'll be facing Villenga this upcoming Friday.
Villenga is more experienced as a professional, having shared the ring with more experienced professionals than Leona Cruz has.
3 fights with the very scrappy and dangerous India Smith. Not just 1 fight, 3 of them. 1 recorded win over India and 2 draws.
I've seen a lot of India Smith in action, and if you're familiar with this fighter, you'll know India can be a handful, so that Villenga shared the ring with her 3 times is really saying something. She also shared the ring with Puerto Rican standout Cristina Cruz, lost both times.
Currently, she's coming right off a win over debutante Marlene Avila this past May.
Unanimous decision in what was a 4-rounder. This upcoming fight with Leona Cruz is billed as a 6-rounder.
6 rounds.
And I don't have any presuppositions. We have to see how Leona Cruz fares against this kind of opponent, someone who is more experienced than she is, albeit a lot older.
It's a litmus test.
Arguably the best fighter Leona Cruz will have fought so far in her very young professional career. She needs all of the experience that she can get before she's ready, really ready to fight for a title. Not just fight for a title, but win one.
It's likely why they plan on getting her out there 4 times this year, 5 if possible.
This schedule, when you think about it, she's got a fight this month, then a fight next month, leaving plenty of time for them to schedule her another fight in, say, October or November.
Few thoughts.
It'll be a long while before Leona Cruz is ready to fight for a title, ready to fight somebody like Marlon Esparza, ready to fight somebody like Arely Mucino. Also campaigning at this weight is Coachella's own unbeaten up-and-comer, Gabriela Fundoria, the younger sister of Sebastian Fundora and the mandatory challenger to Arely Mucino's IBF title. That's supposed to be going down real soon. That fight got ordered.
Yeah.
What Leona Cruz and her handlers need to do here and now, most of all, goal is amass experience, get rounds in the bank, as many as they can. Because she doesn't come from some deep amateur background, she don't have that to draw from.
Nope.
So she's learning on the job, and she needs to.
Being honest, they shouldn't be thinking about alphabet titles until another 1, maybe 2 years.
Leona Cruz is only 25 years old, so she's got plenty of time to really develop as a fighter and sharpen herself, hone her skills. She shouldn't be looking to fight for an alphabet title anytime in the next 12 months.
It's too soon.
By the time Leona Cruz is ready to challenge for a world title, I believe that both Marlon Esparza and Aureli Musinho will have moved on.
Moved up.
To super flyweight, because that's how much time it's going to take for Leona Cruz to ready herself for the best and brightest fighters that this division has to offer, many of which are more experienced than she is.
So like I said, I won't make any bold proclamations. Look out for Leona Cruz versus Malik Villenga this Friday on DAZN as part of an OTX promotion.
Men's heavyweight news on the heels of Anthony Joshua's first knockout in a very long time. Deontay Wilder was very pleased that Joshua scored that vicious KO of Robert Helenius.
What is a common opponent between them?
Wilder made short work of Robert Helenius in just one round, whereas it took Anthony seven to find his right hand and find the knockout.
He found it eventually.
Wilder was like, that's what we needed. We both said the same thing because at first it was looking like it was getting ready to go the distance, Scott said to the October Red YouTube channel. So when the knockout came, I called him on FaceTime and he was like, I'm glad he got that. We needed that.
We needed it done just like that.
So we're both satisfied. The fight is bigger to me than it was because of the knockout. So shout out to AJ for going out there and getting the job done. Was I really impressed besides the knockout? No. Did it give me the type of feeling that we've got some trouble coming in January? No. It actually makes me more confident. I know that he only has 3 or 4 rounds in the ring with Deontay before he gets knocked out. It went up to the 7th.
In truth, I wasn't all that impressed with the knockout either, though I will say, if Anthony had gone out there and stopped him in the first round, it would have been the same deal. It would have been the same deal because it's Robert Helenius.
He's already been stopped 3 times before by Johan Duhaupas, by Gerald Washington, by Deontay Wilder.
Stopping today's Robert Helenius really doesn't mean much. You can only give out so much credit for that.
Malik Scotch continued, I know that he only has 3 or 4 rounds in the ring with Deontay before he gets knocked out. It went up to the 7th round, but before then, the story is that AJ was being patient. He wasn't trying to go for the knockout. That's the sales pitch. But I really look at it like he wasn't taking chances early on. And that's a good thing, especially when your next fight is possibly Deontay Wilder, who's the hardest puncher in the history of the sport. Bullshit. He's far from the hardest puncher in the history of the sport. Most of Deontay Wilder's knockouts are over Joe blows and stumble bums. Once he stepped up in class, the knockouts didn't come.
Case in point, when he fought Bermane Stiverne for the first time, back when Bermane Stiverne was WBC champion, he didn't knock out Bermane Stiverne. It went to the cards.
And it's not because Bermane Stiverne had never been stopped before. He was stopped before. He got knocked out by Demetrius King years before that. So this idea that Wilder's the hardest puncher in the history of boxing, that's just a lot of hyperbole. That's just a lot of bullshit. Michael Scotch continued, and that's like a good thing, especially when your next fight is possibly Deontay Wilder, who's the hardest puncher in the history of the sport. Deontay is a very dangerous fighter right now. Deontay is coming to send him to the next dimension, and that is his intention. When he is not punching at you, he's punching through you.
Well, he hasn't punched anything this entire year. Deontay Wilder has not had a fight since the Robert Helenius fight late last year.
And it's looking like he's not going to fight at all the entirety of this calendar year. Anthony Joshua stated, I'm just focused on smashing Wilder's head in now, and that's it.
There are legitimate concerns to be raised about how Anthony Joshua's been looking fight by fight, but you could also raise some of those concerns when it comes to Deontay Wilder, who, if he don't fight again this year, he will have only fought for one round, one round in the last 2 years.
I don't know, Joshua said during his post-fight press conference when asked what would have happened if he would have fought Wilder sooner. That's what I'm saying. It's all the same shit. We're gonna fight, and what will be, will be. I can't look back and say what would be, what would have been. I'm just focused on fighting him now. That's it. That's what I'm focused on. No questions. I'm not trying to compare what would have been. It's a weakness. I'm just focused on smashing Wilder's head in now. And that's it.
I'll tell you that
My thoughts on this fight. I approached it with a lot more confidence in previous years, before Anthony was stopped by Andy Ruiz, that Anthony Joshua had the ingredients, the knockout power, and the confidence to dispatch Deontay Wilder, but based on his tentativeness, his hesitance as of late, I feel it's a closer fight now than it was before.
Yeah.
Any time is a good time to fight, Joshua said. It's only a fight. It doesn't matter who it is. It could have been Wilder 8 years ago or Wilder now. Don't matter. It is what it is at the end of the day. It's only a fight and boxing wins. So roll on, really. There's no worry to me when it is. I'm just happy that we can get the fight going. And I think people appreciate that, you know? I'm doing my best to keep the heavyweight boxing on the map.
I feel like Anthony used to throw his jab with more snap and more intent in previous years before he got stopped. I feel like he used to go in there.
He used to throw the right hand with more confidence, more conviction, whereas these days he's more tentative, he's more careful, and it's questionable as to whether he's better for it.
Whether or not it's made him a better fighter.
We want the fight, Hearn said. That's the fight we want to make, so let's focus on that.
I've always viewed Anthony Joshua as the better, more well-schooled boxer of the two, with knockout power of his own.
But this more cerebral version of that same fighter, that same guy, it's questionable as to whether or not that's the right approach for Deontay Wilder, because what neutralized Deontay Wilder,
What worked for Tyson Fury,
what took away Deontay Wilder's right hand was Tyson Fury stepping into his jab and minding Wilder's right, keeping Wilder under pressure and forcing him onto his back foot. Deontay Wilder, he's no good off the back foot.
shooting a jab and doubling up on it, tying him up, leaning on him, sapping his energy reserves,
Wrestling with him in the clinch. All of this was taxing on Deontay Wilder's cardio, and I've long maintained that for a guy that looks athletic, Deontay Wilder ain't got the best lungs.
Nope.
He ain't got the best cardio.
Nope.
But essentially what worked for Tyson Fury was keeping Wilder under pressure, taking the initiative, whereas Anthony Joshua, he's more hesitant, more tentative, fighting more of a thinking man's fight from a safe distance. And I don't know if that's the way to go for Deontay, because at that range, he can get off that right hand. What worked for Tyson Fury was smothering Deontay Wilder, smothering him so he doesn't have room to throw the right hand or time, whereas Anthony,
the way he's been looking.
what he's been doing is sticking his jab out there, 1 and 2 jabs at a time, pecking away at his opponents, but giving his opponents enough room, enough space, that if it's Deontay opposite the ring, he's got enough room to shoot the right. How is Anthony going to go about fighting this fight? This fight with Deontay Wilder.
He says he's going to nullify him. He says this is a game of chess, and he's going to nullify Deontay Wilder, often described as a one-handed fighter, one-handed puncher.
Albeit a big one. Perhaps not the biggest in history, the way Malik Scotch says, but still a sizable puncher.
Wilder, who knocked out Hellenius with a single shot in 1 round last October, is regarded as the most dangerous puncher at the weight.
Anthony Joshua is already taking mental steps on how to handle Wilder's power. This is a game of chess. I'm going to take away Wilder's best attributes. I'm not going to stand there with my chin in the air and say, hit me. I'm going to nullify him. It will be very challenging for him for sure.
We'll see.
Deontay Wilder is a fighter that spends the majority of the round and the majority of a fight looking to land a single punch, a single right hand, even if it's at the expense of several of the opening rounds. It's not uncommon to see a fighter having success against Deontay, then suddenly out comes the right hand. That's saying that the focus of all Deontay Wilder's efforts are not to win the rounds or not to land some jabs, it's landing the right hand. The focus of everything he does throughout the course of a match is getting off that right hand and landing it.
So how's Anthony going to nullify it?
In reference to his more cerebral approach with Robert Hellenius, I think they don't understand it's competitive boxing. I was watching certain fights tonight and they didn't look as exciting as I thought they would. Were they booing me or Hellenius? That is the question. Who were they booing? Have any of them ever boxed before? The rating of my performance is for my coach, Derek James. I don't really rate my performances. Whatever the coach thinks, we can go back to the drawing board, and I know there is lots of things we can improve upon. I felt better than I did in April versus Jermaine Franklin, and that is the main thing.
One thing that's actually working for Anthony Joshua, that he's fought 2 times this year where Deontay hasn't fought at all, and who knows if he's going to.
There were concerns in reference to how Anthony Joshua is performing, but there are concerns when it comes to Deontay as well. He is some years older than Anthony Joshua.
More wear and tear.
Eddie Hearn says, if AJ lands the right hand on Wilder like that, the fight's over. And vice versa. One concern that I don't see a lot of people raising, but I'll raise it myself, is that Deontay Wilder's punch resistance is in question. After 2 systematic beatings at the hands of Tyson Fury, we don't really know where his punch resistance is because Robert Helenius didn't get to tell us.
Fight only lasted 1 round.
I think that he can beat Deontay Wilder comfortably, but he could also get beat by Deontay Wilder, Hearn said. I don't think necessarily. I mean, the good thing is he got, 7 rounds in against a tall opponent who can punch a bit with the backhand. I think it's difficult to replicate, certainly, the power of Deontay Wilder, but I've always felt that AJ can outbox him. But also, I prefer him to box tentatively than his old style against Wilder. I know he can beat him with that style as well, but I would like to see him box Deontay Wilder. Try and break him down. If he lands the right on Wilder like that, the fight is over, and vice versa. If Wilder lands that right hand...
That's why it's one of the best fights in boxing.
You know, Deontay Wilder is 37 years old. He hasn't fought at all this entire calendar year. He had the Robert Helenius fight last year, but that only lasted 1 round. Before that, he suffered two systematic beatings to the same guy in Tyson Fury. The kind of beatings that change you.
They can.
You're not really going to see the best of AJ in fights against Jermaine Franklin or Robert Helenius, Hearn said. It's why he chose Dillian Whyte, because it was a fight that he actually wanted and could get up for. So this week's been a complete nightmare, and you know, honestly, if he would have just boxed like that for another 6 rounds and won on points, I know people would have been disappointed.
But I would have just gone, thank God. But just pleased that he got the showroom knockout.
There are concerns when it comes to Anthony Joshua, make no mistake, but there are also concerns when it comes to Wilder, who's the older, more war-torn fighter, 7 or 8 surgeries to the same arm, 2 systematic beatings to the same guy.
He's only fought for 1 round in the last 2 years.
Unbeknownst to the layman, being able to get that right hand off, being able to snap that out on time to catch your opponent, relies on timing and reflexes. And what are his reflexes like at 37 years old, having only boxed for 1 round in the last 2 years?
And what's his punch resistance like? Because it's not like Robert got to test that chin.
What are his energy reserves like? Because in the last Fury fight, he gassed out after just 1 round.
That was well over a year ago.
I view this as a much closer fight here and now than I did in previous years. That's my take.
Anthony Joshua may not be the same guy that he was a few years ago, but neither is Deontay Wilder.